Balikan natin ang isa sa malalaking balita ngayong araw. Inaasikaso na ang deportation proceedings para kay dating US Marine Lance Corporal Joseph Scott. Yan ang absolute pardon ni Pangulong Duterte sa kasong pagpatay sa Filipino transgender na si Jennifer Laude. Inaabangan kung kailan tuluyang aalis ng bansa si Pemberton. Kaugnay dyan, kausapin natin ngayon si Philippine Ambassador to the US, Joseph Manuel Romualdez. Magandang gabi po sa inyo, or good morning to you, Ambassador Romualdez.
Yes. Magandang umaga sa akin at magandang gabi sa iyo.
Yes. Ambassador, can you tell us, will or did the absolute pardon for Joseph Scott Pemberton improve Philippine-US relations, as an analyst says it will or has?
Well, no, there is no question about it that, of course, the United States, specifically the Department of Defense, has always wanted to see Private Pemberton be released at the soonest possible time, although they knew that he was sentenced, and so they were waiting for it. As a matter of fact, Admiral Harris, the former SINCPAC commander, or the Indo-Pac commander, was here in Washington, D.C. He dropped by the embassy, I think that was 2 years ago. He's now the U.S. ambassador to Australia. And he asked me what was the possibility of Private Pemberton being released there earlier if there was a chance. And of course, I just told him that it'll have to take its course and that they could probably appeal the case and everything. But they were not pushing at all. They were just concerned on how long Private Pemberton will be under custody or be in prison.
So, in other words, nakakatulong ito sa Philippine-US relations. Ganun po ba?
Well, maski na papano, siyempre, malaking bagay na pinardon ng presidente mismo yung sundalo nila. And they're very appreciative of that. As a matter of fact, tumawag sa akin yung State Department, tumawag sa akin yung Assistant Secretary sa Pentagon. Nagpapasalamat sila, nagpapasalamat kay Presidente na ipinardon si Private Pemberton. Pero lahat kami, we were surprised. This was really a surprise to all of us, including, I understand, Ambassador Kim and Secretary Locsin, who were both in Malacanang when the President decided that he was going to pardon Private Pemberton. But this was all based on the fact that, si Presidente is a prosecutor and he knows the law very well. And to him, from what I am told, he talked to Secretary Locsin, who's also a lawyer. Nag-usap sila at sabi ni Presidente kay Secretary Locsin na he has decided that it would be best to just pardon Private Pemberton dahil anyway, he was already going to be given some kind of a commuted sentence dahil for good behavior. Pero hindi natin malaman kung na-good behavior or not. Sabi ng Presidente, dahil hindi naman natin, the Bureau of Prisons were not really checking on him directly. But I think and overall, it was a presidential prerogative. And I'm sure at some point he would have, the sentence would have been commuted and time served for him, which is really what the law is all about. So I think overall it was a good move on the part of the president. Not only it was an act of kindness, I suppose, and you have to remember, Pia, that we also asked many countries to pardon many of our citizens, our OFWs who have committed crimes in their countries. Right. Like, for instance, in Indonesia, I can't remember the name of the person who was charged with life imprisonment, I understand. President Duterte himself asked President Widodo to pardon our OFW who was charged with, I think, transporting drugs. So all of this is part of an overall relationship that we have all over the world,
Well, the president's spokesman, Harry Roque, was saying that there is a higher national interest at play here, and Harry's guessing that the pardon was in exchange for a vaccine. Are there any talks like that at your level?
Well, I am not sure exactly when the presidential spokesperson Harry Roque got that information, but we know here in the United States,
Yeah.
it was the United States. In fact, Secretary Pompeo has offered Secretary Locsin what they can do to help, and that Secretary Locsin expressed to Secretary Pompeo that definitely once the vaccine would be available, we'd like to be able to have access to it. And almost immediately after the Secretary Locsin told that to Secretary Pompeo, the State Department was already calling me, including the White House, asking me what are the requirements, and that immediately we had a reaction coming from the pharmaceutical companies who are developing this vaccine. So all it took was really just for us to just say it, and they were ready to have for us to have access to the vaccine. So I think probably Secretary Roque is simply thinking that could be a reason, but I'm afraid that we will have access to vaccines here in the United States because we have a good relationship here, and at the same time, we all know that the world needs a vaccine. One country cannot have a vaccine and not give it to the other because it's good. Not only is it good relations, but everyone has to get a vaccine so that we will all be safe. We need 60% immunity all over the world. Out of the 9 billion, about 7 billion have to be immunized from this COVID-19. That's the only way to keep the world safe again.
Yes. Well, yeah. All right. Well, yes, Teddy Locsin tweeted as much, saying that. And my last question, Ambassador, Pemberton is or will be a free man here in the Philippines, but once he's deported and is back in U.S. territory, is there going to be any action taken by the U.S. Armed Forces? Will there be any sanctions, for example? What is the process that happens when a U.S. serviceman who is convicted abroad, meaning outside of the U.S., finishes his serving his sentence and then returns to the U.S.?
Well, most likely, like in most cases, Private Pemberton would probably he will not be dismissed, but most likely he will leave the armed forces of the United States. There will be since he served his sentence as far as the United States is concerned. I think it will be his option whether to continue on. I don't think he's going to be discharged forcefully. I mean, they're not going to enforce a discharge order to him. But very likely he will probably just be reunited with his family. His family is, of course, very grateful to the President Duterte, for the pardon. And they have been hoping to see him at the soonest possible time. So it's just the normal process that will take place here once he comes home.
Ambassador Romualdez, thank you very much for your time, sir, this evening or this morning for you. Maraming
Well, thank you
salamat
very
po,
much.
Ambassador.